The chamber's holographic dome pulsed with the icons of 1,000 worlds, but Ambassador Hale's voice cut through the static hum like a laser. The United Human Federation hereby declares independence from the core concordance. No more tribute. No more oversight. We're done. His words hung in the recycled air, translated into a babble of alien tongues that rippled across the assembly. Hale stood tall at the podium, his flight jacket zipped tight against the chill of the station's life support, eyes locked on the central dais where the Council of Five loomed in their crystalline thrones. To his left, Engineer Kira Voss tapped furiously at her wrist console, her fingers a blur, cautious by nature, but today her caution fueled precision. Beside her, Captain Ruiz leaned against the railing, arms crossed, his witty grin masking the tension in his jaw. He'd flown Black Ops runs through asteroid fields tighter than this diplomatic minefield. The lead counselor, a serpentine Vixari named Thalor, uncoiled slightly, its scales shimmering under the lights. "Deletion protocol initiated," it hissed through the translator, voice like grinding gears. Alarms blared softly at first, then swelled, red strobes painting the chamber in blood hues. The dome's displays flickered, sectors of the holographic map winking out as if erased by an invisible hand. Hale's team felt the station lurch, a subtle vibration through the deck plates, as security fields activated, sealing bulkheads. "Get us to the shuttle bay," Hale barked, already moving. Ruiz was at his side in an instant, pulling a compact stun baton from his belt. "Council's not bluffing. They've got overrides on every door." Kira glanced up from her console, her face pale but set. "I'm rerouting the auxiliary power. Buy us 30 seconds. She jabbed a sequence, sweat beading on her brow, the cautious part of her screaming to abort, but loyalty to Hale and the Federation's dream pushed her forward. The chamber doors groaned but didn't budge, energy barriers crackling blue. A squad of Concordance enforcers, hulking insectoid Krell, emerged from side vents, mandibles clicking. Ruiz didn't hesitate. "Flank left." He lunged, baton sparking against the nearest one's carapace, the impact sending a jolt up his arm. The Krell swung a pincer, but Ruiz ducked, rolling to trip its legs. Hale covered him, firing a suppressed pulse from his sidearm, non-lethal per protocol, but enough to stagger the beast. Kira's hack broke through with a chime. The doors hissed open a crack. "Go!" "I've looped their cams, 30 seconds. They piled through, the station's corridors a maze of glowing conduits and warning klaxons. Behind them, Thalor's voice echoed over the intercom. "Humanity's records are being purged. Your history ends here." Hale gripped the railing as they sprinted, the weight of deleted archives pressing like a ghost. Colonies' logs, heroes' tales, all vanishing into digital void. They rounded a corner into a maintenance access, Ruiz sealing it with a makeshift weld from his multi-tool. That was too close. Council's deletion waves spreading, shields, nav data, everything. Kira nodded, plugging her console into a junction box. Her hands trembled slightly, but she steadied them. "I can isolate our shuttle's core. Keep it off their grid." Hale watched her work, the earnest fire in his eyes mirroring the spark of defiance that had built the Federation from scattered outposts. No speeches, just action. The kind that forged legends even as they were being unwritten. The deck shuddered again, harder this time. Docking clamps releasing. No, worse, the station was purging non-essential systems, venting atmosphere from outer rings. Voices crackled over comms from the chamber, alien delegates murmuring in confusion, some protesting the overreach. But the Council's deletion marched on, a digital guillotine slicing through the galaxy's shared memory. Ruiz punched a panel, revealing a ladder to the lower decks. "Bay's 2 levels down, move." They descended in a rush, boots clanging on rungs, the air growing thicker with the scent of ozone. Kira's console beeped a warning, her loop failing early. Footsteps echoed above, more Krell. Hale glanced up, pulse racing. This wasn't just survival. It was rewriting their erasure, one desperate hack at a time. The ladder groaned under their weight as they dropped into the dim underbelly of the station, emergency lights flickering like dying stars. Hale's boots hit the grated floor first, his hand already drawing the compact pulse pistol from his hip. Standard issue for security on these outposts. But today it felt like a relic against the Council's automated wrath. Ruiz landed beside him, her face streaked with sweat, eyes scanning the corridor ahead where conduits snaked along the walls like exposed veins. "Kira, status on that loop?" Ruiz barked, her voice steady despite the chaos, the cautious engineer in her always prioritizing the tech first. Kira slid down last, her tablet clutched like a shield, fingers flying across the screen. Holding for now, but the purge is cascading faster than I thought. We've got maybe 10 minutes before it wipes the core archives. Our history, their lies, everything. She was the witty one.
Usually cracking jokes about alien bureaucracy.
But now her words clipped sharp, no room for levity. The air hummed with the low whine of failing life support, and Hale caught the acrid tang of sparking relays nearby. Footsteps thundered above, the Krell enforcers closing in, their heavy armored treads vibrating through the deck. Split the corridor. Ruiz, you and Kira take the service tunnel left. I'll draw them right. Hale's plan formed on instinct, brave to a fault, his pulse pounding but his grip firm. No time for debate. He waved them toward a rusted hatch while leveling his pistol at the ladder well. Ruiz hesitated, her dark eyes narrowing. Cautious Ruiz, always the one to spot the flaw. That's suicide, Hale. We stick together or we don't stick at all. A shadow loomed at the top of the ladder, a Krell silhouette blocking the light, its scaled hide glinting under the red strobes. Hale fired without looking back, the pulse bolt sizzling through the air and striking true, sending the enforcer tumbling with a guttural roar. Go! He shouted, the word echoing as he backed toward the right fork, boots scraping sparks on the metal. Kira yanked the hatch open, her loop code still flickering green on her tablet, buying them seconds in the digital war above. They plunged into the tunnels, the walls closing in tight, forcing them to crouch as coolant pipes hissed overhead. Ruiz led, her multi-tool already prying at a junction box, exposing a nest of fiber optics pulsing with data streams, the station's nervous system. If we can reroute the purge through the auxiliary servers, we might isolate the Council's overrides, she muttered, splicing wires with practiced hands. Kira knelt beside her, tablet synced, her fingers a blur. Smart. Use their own protocols against them. Like turning a guillotine into a trampoline. A faint smile cracked her tension, wit slipping through even here. But the tunnel shuddered, a distant explosion rocking the station. Another ring venting, lives lost in the outer habitats. Hale's comm crackled with static, his voice cutting through from the other path. They're flanking me. 3 down, but more coming. Whatever you're doing, make it quick. His breaths came ragged, the brave front cracking just enough to let fear bleed in. Ruiz's splice faltered, a spark jumping to singe her glove. Damn it, the feeds are encrypted deeper than I thought. Kira, boost the signal. Kira nodded, rerouting power from her suit's reserves, the tablet glowing hotter in her lap. The air grew stifling, oxygen levels dipping as alarms wailed faintly through the bulkheads. Above, the Council's declaration echoed in automated bursts over the PA. Non-compliant records terminated. Unity restored. It was erasure in real time, human colonies' logs of resistance vanishing into the void, their grit and triumphs reduced to ghosts. Hale burst through a side vent behind them, collapsing against the wall, pistol smoking. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead, but his eyes burned defiant. Lost my way back, Krell sealed it. What's the play? Ruiz didn't look up, her hands steady now, weaving the hack. We're turning their deletion into a mirror. Bounce the purge back at their command nodes. But it'll fry this whole deck, us included if we're not clear. The tunnel lights dimmed, the station's AI prioritizing the Council's will. Kira hit enter, her loop evolving into a counter-virus, data flooding the lines like a dam breaking. Executing now. Hold on. Hale pushed to his feet, clapping Ruiz on the shoulder. Camaraderie in the grit, no words needed. The floor bucked as systems rebelled, Krell shouts turning to confusion over the comms. They scrambled for the next hatch as overload sirens blared, the air ionizing with static. Behind them, the junction box erupted in a shower of sparks, the digital guillotine swinging wild. Toward the Council at last.
Hale sealed the hatch with a clang, his voice low and sure.
That's one rewrite they won't forget. The hatch's seal hissed shut, locking out the chaos behind them, but the deck still shuddered like a beast in its death throes. Hale leaned against the bulkhead, catching his breath, his gloved hand leaving a smear of coolant on the cold metal. Ruiz slumped nearby, wiping sweat from his brow, while Kira hunched over her portable rig, fingers flying across the holographic keys. The air in the narrow corridor tasted of ozone and recycled fear, the emergency lights casting long shadows that danced with every vibration. Status on the node? Hale asked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline crash. He glanced at the corridor ahead, dimly lit conduits snaking along the walls leading to the core access shaft. No time to linger. The Council's purge protocols would ripple out soon, hunting anomalies like them. Kira's eyes flicked up, sharp and unyielding. The counter-virus is spreading. It's eaten through their primary command link, but they're adapting. Firewalls mutating faster than I can track. She paused, a rare flicker of doubt crossing her face before she shoved it down. We bought maybe 10 minutes before they isolate the sector. Ruiz grunted, pushing off the wall with a wince, his arm bandaged from an earlier scrape, blood seeping through. 10 minutes to the core? That's pushing it. Elevators are probably locked down. He pulled his multi-tool from his belt, eyeing the access panel to their left. Always the practical one, Ruiz. Hale trusted that more than any fancy scan. Hale nodded, mapping the route in his head. They'd planned for this. The station's underbelly. A maze of service tunnels the Krell overlords rarely patrolled. Humans had built these rigs after all, ingenuity etched into every weld. We go manual. Shaft's our best shot. Kira, keep that rig hot. We might need a backdoor if things go south. They moved as a unit, boots thudding softly on the grated floor. Ruiz pried open the panel with a screech of metal, revealing a ladder dropping into the gloom. The air grew cooler, heavier, laced with the hum of distant machinery. Hale went first, descending rung by rung, his flashlight beam cutting through the dark like a knife. Halfway down, a low rumble echoed up. Alarms or something worse? Contact, Kira whispered over the comm, her voice tight from above. Scanners picking up patrol drones inbound. 2 minutes out. Hale hit the bottom, landing in a crouch amid tangled cables and flickering relays. The core chamber loomed ahead, a cavernous space pulsing with the station's heart. Massive conduits glowing blue, data streams visible as ethereal flows in the air. But the path was blocked. A reinforced grate, sealed with biometric locks the Council had retrofitted after the last uprising. Ruiz dropped beside him, tools already out. This'll take a torch. Give me 30 seconds. Sparks flew as he cut into the frame, the acrid smell biting at their noses. Hale covered him, rifle raised, ears straining for the whine of drones. Kira slid down last, rig slung over her shoulder. Plan B, if this fails, I can spoof the lock, but it'll light us up on their grid. Like a flare in the night. Do it, Hale said just as Ruiz's torch sputtered out, the grate half free but jammed. A clank echoed from above. Drones, closer now, their sensor lights probing the shaft like hungry eyes. Ruiz swore, yanking at the metal with raw strength, veins bulging in his neck. It gave an inch, then stuck. Hale joined him, shoulders straining, the two of them heaving in sync. Grid over gear, the human way. The grate groaned, bending under their combined force, but not enough. Kira slapped her rig against the lock console, jacking in. Code scrolled across her display, green tendrils infiltrating the system. Almost. Got it. A beep, then red, rejected. Damn, they're onto us. Shutting down power. The chamber lights dimmed, plunging them into near blackness. Drones buzzed louder, shadows flitting at the shaft's mouth. Hale's mind raced, adapt or die. Ruiz, your multi-tool. Reverse the polarity on those conduits. Overload the great servos. Ruiz blinked, then grinned fiercely in the low light. Crazy bastard. On it. He jammed the tool into a nearby junction, twisting with practiced hands. Wires sparked and the grate vibrated, then bucked open with a snap, hinges fusing in the surge. They tumbled through just as the first drone crested the shaft, its laser sight sweeping empty air. Hale kicked the grate shut behind them, the clang echoing like a gunshot. Heart pounding, he turned to the core, its glow beckoning. But Kira froze, staring at her rig. The virus, it's glitching. Council's countermeasure hit back. We lose the core link now, we're ghosts in the machine, erased. Ruiz clapped her shoulder, voice rough but sure. Then we make it count, no half measures. Hale met their eyes, the weight of it settling in, one shot at the heart of the beast. They pressed on, the core's hum growing to a roar, defiance burning brighter than any alarm. Hale's boots scraped against the grated floor as they rounded the final bend, the corridor narrowing like a vein pulsing toward the heart. The air thickened with ozone, sharp against his tongue, and the core's roar vibrated through his bones, drowning out the distant wail of pursuing alarms. Kira's fingers flew over her rig, her face illuminated by the flickering holographic display. Lines of code twisting like snakes in retreat. Links holding by a thread, she muttered, sweat beading on her brow. The virus is burrowing, but their firewalls are adapting. If we push too hard, it'll fry the whole node. Ruiz grunted, hefting his makeshift pry bar, a jagged piece of salvaged conduit. Adapting or not, we're here. No turning back now. He glanced at Hale, eyes steady in the pulsing blue light. You call it, boss. Dive in blind or scout first? Hale weighed it, the hum pressing in like a living thing. Scouting meant time, exposure. Diving meant trust in Kira's glitchy work. But hesitation had cost them before, back in the outer rings where Ruiz had taken that shrapnel hit shielding the group. No repeats. We dive. Ruiz, you cover the ingress. Kira, thread the needle. I'll anchor the breach. They moved as one, Kira jacking her rig into the nearest access panel with a soft click. Sparks danced from the connection, and the core's glow intensified, casting long shadows that writhed across the walls. Hale positioned himself at the threshold, pulse rifle humming low in his grip. Scanning the chamber ahead. A vast spherical room, the core suspended at its center like a captive star, tendrils of cabling snaking out to feed the Council's endless data streams. Threading now, Kira said, her voice tight. The virus surged through her display, green code infiltrating red barriers. For a moment it held, progress bars inching forward, the core's defenses flickering like a cornered animal. Then the backfire hit. A low groan echoed from the walls and the floor bucked beneath them. Ruiz staggered, slamming his shoulder into a bulkhead to steady himself. What the hell? Countermeasure! Kira yanked at her jack, but it wouldn't budge, fused by the surge. Alarms blared anew, closer this time, and from the shadows of the chamber security drones detached from their perches, sleek orbs whirring to life, red sensors locking on. Hale fired first, a burst from his rifle shearing off a drone's wing. It spiraled into the wall with a crunch, but two more zipped toward them, lasers slicing the air. Ruiz swung his pry bar, catching one mid-dive. Metal screeched as it crumpled, but the impact jarred his arm, fresh blood seeping from his old wound. Kira cursed, prying at the jack with trembling hands. It's locked me in, draining the rig. If I don't sever it, it'll trace us back to the safe house. Forget the safe house, Hale barked, dodging a laser that scorched the grate beside his foot. He rolled behind a protruding conduit, returning fire. One drone exploded in a shower of fragments, but the third evaded, hovering just out of reach. The core's hum spiked as if feeding on their chaos, its light strobing wildly. Ruiz charged forward, ignoring Hale's shout, and leaped for the drone. His bar connected with a satisfying thunk, sending it crashing into the core's outer shielding. Sparks erupted, and for a split second the chamber's lights dimmed, the virus seizing the opening. Kira's eyes widened. Got it, link stable. Uploading the payload. But Ruiz didn't rise. He slumped against the shielding, clutching his side where a stray laser had grazed him, the wound deeper than before. Hale was at his side in an instant, hauling him back as more drones crested the corridor behind them. Keep it together, Hale said, voice low and fierce. We're not losing you here. Ruiz managed a grim smile, blood staining his teeth. Wouldn't miss the show. Finish it. Kira's rig beeped triumphantly, the core's glow shifting from blue to a sickly green as the virus took hold. Declarations flickered across the chamber's walls, holographic edicts from the Council, proclamations of order and deletion scrolling in endless loops. But now they glitched, words dissolving into static, entire archives unraveling. The pursuing drones faltered, their formations breaking as the system's core convulsed. Hale supported Ruiz, firing one last burst to clear their path back into the vents. Kira unjacked with a final yank, her rig smoking but intact. They retreated, the roar fading to a dying whine behind them. But as they sealed the grate, Hale caught a final glimpse, the core fracturing, data streams bleeding into void. The Council's history, recorded and revoked in the same breath. Ruiz leaned on Hale, breath ragged. Worth it? Hale nodded, the weight of their costs settling like dust. Damn right. Hale's boots echoed against the narrow duct walls as they crawled forward, the metal groaning under the strain of the station's failing supports. Ruiz's labored breaths filled the confined space, each one a reminder of the shrapnel wound in his side. Kira led the way, her rig's faint glow casting erratic shadows, her fingers dancing over the makeshift interface to reroute their path. Left at the junction, she whispered, voice tight. Security's blind here, for now. Hale glanced back, the sealed grate behind them now a distant memory. The core's collapse had bought them time, but the alarms were already wailing through the vents like a siren's call. He adjusted his grip on Ruiz, the man's weight pulling at his shoulders. How much farther to the extraction point? 200 meters. If the schematics hold. Kira paused, jacking into a side panel. Sparks flew and she cursed under her breath. Damn Council's overrides. They're locking down auxiliary routes. Ruiz coughed, blood flecking his lips. Leave me if it comes to it. Get the data out. Not happening, Hale snapped, his voice a low rumble. He'd seen too many ops end with disposable assets. Ruiz was no asset. He was the one who'd mapped the Corps' defenses back on the frigate. Hale shifted Ruiz higher, ignoring the burn in his arms. We all walk or none of us do. The duct shuddered, a deep vibration rumbling through the hull. Kira yanked her jack free. Tremors from the breach. If the core's fracturing, this whole wing could vent. They pushed on, the air growing thicker, laced with the acrid tang of overheating circuits. Hale's mind raced. The data crystal in his pocket felt heavier than the man he carried. It held fragments of the Council's deleted histories, genocides masked as purges, alliances forged in blood, the slow erosion of species under edicts of efficiency. Humans like them, outliers from the fringe worlds, had cracked it open. But deletion meant pursuit, relentless, automated, and now personal. A hiss echoed ahead, steam or worse venting from a cracked seam. Kira froze, then twisted to face them. Barrier ahead. Automated seal. I can hack it, but it'll light us up on their grids. Do it, Hale said. No hesitation. They were already ghosts in the machine. Might as well scream. Her rig whirred to life, probes extending like spider legs. Lines of code flickered in the holographic display, green bleeding to red as countermeasures bit back. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but her hand stayed steady. The cautious one, always calculating odds, now betting the house. Ruiz's grip tightened on Hale's arm. You think the fleet's waiting? Or did we just nuke our ride home? Hale forced a grin, though his jaw ached from clenching. Captain's a stubborn bastard. He'll circle till hell freezes. The seal groaned, servos whining in protest. Kira's eyes narrowed. Almost got it. The barrier slid open with a screech, revealing a wider maintenance corridor beyond. But as they tumbled through, red lights pulsed to life along the walls, strobing like a heartbeat. Drones incoming, Kira said, scanning the feeds. 3 squads, closing fast. Hale lowered Ruiz against a bulkhead, drawing his pulse rifle. The weapon hummed in his hands, charge at half. He sighted down the corridor, the first drone silhouette emerging from the gloom, sleek, council issue, with targeting arrays whirring to focus. Flank left, he ordered. Kira, rig a distraction. Ruiz, cover if you can. She nodded, already splicing into a nearby console. Ruiz fumbled for his sidearm, fingers slick with blood. The drones accelerated, their thrusters whispering death. Hale fired first, a burst shearing off a drone sensor pod. It veered, crashing into the wall in a spray of debris, but the others adapted, weaving in formation. Lasers lancing out to scorch the deck plating. Kira's distraction bloomed. A burst of false signals flooding the corridor, holographic decoys flickering to life. The drones hesitated, splitting their fire. Hale used the moment, rolling forward to drag Ruiz deeper into cover. One drone broke through, hovering inches from his face, its maw charging. Hale shoved Ruiz aside and lunged, slamming the butt of his rifle into its chassis. Sparks erupted. It tumbled, but clipped his leg with a glancing shot, numbing fire racing up his thigh. Got 2 down, Kira called, her voice edged with strain. She unjacked, rifle in hand now, picking off the last with precise bursts. Silence fell, broken only by Ruiz's ragged breathing. Hale slumped against the wall, checking his wound. Superficial, but it burned like hell. The data crystal dug into his hip. A small victory amid the ache. Extractions that way, Kira said, pointing down the corridor. But her eyes flicked to the trembling floor. We move fast or the station moves us permanently. Hale hauled Ruiz up again, the man's nod weak but resolute. They pressed on, the weight of what they'd unleashed settling deeper. The Council's history wasn't just deleted. It was unraveling, thread by thread, and they were the ones pulling. Hale's boot slipped on the slick grating, the vibration from below rattling through his bones like a distant quake. He tightened his grip on Ruiz. The man's arm slung over his shoulder, each step a shared drag against the failing deck. Kira led, her rifle sweeping the dim corridor ahead, shadows twisting from flickering emergency lights. Station's core is destabilizing, she muttered, glancing at her wrist display. That deletion virus we planted, it's chewing through the supports. We bought time, but not much. Ruiz coughed, blood flecking his lips. Worth it. Council's lies are gone, but if we don't save it, Hale cut in, his voice rough. The wound in his thigh throbbed with every push, but he ignored it, focusing on the nav point glowing on his own display. Extraction pod was 2 levels down, through a service hatch. Simple if nothing else got in the way. They reached the junction, a wide chamber where conduits snaked along the walls like exposed veins. Kira knelt by the access panel, prying it open with a multi-tool. Sparks flew, illuminating her focused scowl. Locked. Bioscan. Hale lowered Ruiz against a bulkhead, the man slumping with a groan. He pulled the data crystal from his pocket, its facets catching the light, a trophy that felt heavier by the minute. Use this. Override protocol. She slotted it in, fingers flying over the interface. The panel hummed, then beeped denial. Red lights pulsed. It's fighting back. Council's failsafe, it's isolating sections. A low rumble built, dust sifting from the ceiling. Hale's pulse quickened. The floor tilted slightly, metal groaning. We blast it. Kira shook her head, eyes narrowing. Charges would bring the whole level down. Think, Hale. You're the improv guy. He scanned the chamber, mind racing. The conduits, power lines thick and insulated. Humans had jury-rigged worse in tighter spots. Short it. Cross the lines with the crystal's emitter. It'll fry the lock without full detonation. Ruiz chuckled weakly from the floor. Crazy, but yeah, do it. Kira yanked a conduit free, insulation peeling like old skin. Hale wedged the crystal between the exposed wires, its data core humming faintly. She initiated the pulse. Blue arc leaped, the panel shuddering. Alarms wailed, but the hatch hissed open, revealing a narrow ladder shaft plunging into darkness. Go, Hale said, hauling Ruiz to his feet. They descended, Kira covering from above, her shots echoing as pursuing drones whirred into the junction. The shaft narrowed, rung slick with condensation. Ruiz's weight pulled Hale off balance halfway down. His wounded leg buckled, sending them both slamming against the sides. Pain exploded, but he caught a rung, muscles burning. Keep moving! Kira's voice filtered down sharp. A drone's buzz grew louder. She fired, the crack deafening in the confined space. Debris rained, pinging off metal. They hit the lower level, spilling into a maintenance bay cluttered with forgotten crates and leaking pipes. The extraction pod waited at the far end, its hatch sealed but intact. Hale punched the release. It cycled green, but as they staggered toward it, the deck buckled. A support beam snapped overhead, crashing down and shearing the pod's access ramp. Sparks erupted, the pod tilting precariously. Ruiz stared, breathing hard. No. Kira vaulted the debris, assessing. We climb in through the side vents. Hale, boost me. He knelt despite the fire in his leg, lacing fingers for her foot. She scrambled up, wrenching a panel loose. Ruiz next, light, get him up. Hale lifted, Ruiz gripping the edge with trembling hands. Kira pulled, hauling him inside. Hale followed, agony shooting through his thigh as he levered himself over twisted metal. The pod's interior was cramped, controls flickering to life under Kira's hands. Strap in, she ordered, initiating launch. The pod lurched, engines whining against the station's pull. Outside, the bay twisted, walls folding inward. Drones swarmed the breach, lasers scoring the pod's hull. Hale sealed the vent, the heat searing his palms. We made it, Ruiz whispered, eyes on the crystal clutched in his fist. Their history? Ours now. The pod rocketed free, the station fracturing behind them, a crumbling monument to deleted truths. Hale leaned back, breath ragged, the cost etched in every ache. Survival. But the unraveling had only just begun. The pod shuddered as it cleared the debris field, stars streaking past the viewport like scattered embers. Hale gripped the armrest, his thigh throbbing with each vibration, but he forced his eyes on the nav console. Ruiz scanned for pursuit. Kira, plot us a course to the outer rim. Any neutral station doesn't matter. Ruiz hunched over his makeshift terminal, fingers dancing across the jury-rigged interface. The crystal pulsed faintly in his lap, its glow casting eerie shadows on his face. Drones are peeling off, but the Council's interceptors are lighting up. 3 signatures closing fast. ETA 5 minutes if we push the engines. Kira's hands flew over the controls, her jaw set in that familiar line of determination. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but her voice stayed steady. Pushing. But this rust bucket's not built for speed. We'll need a slingshot maneuver around that gas giant ahead. Buy us some distance. Hale nodded, ignoring the fresh spike of pain as he shifted. The escape had bought them time, but the crystal's weight pressed heavier than any wound. It held the deleted archives, The Council's scrubbed history of human colonies erased to maintain their grip. If they could deliver it to the fringe worlds, it might spark the rebellion they'd all whispered about in the station's shadows. But first, survival. Alarms blared, red lights pulsing. Ruiz swore under his breath. Interceptors launching missiles. Lock-ons confirmed, evasive now. Kira yanked the pod into a spiral, the hull groaning as G-forces pinned them to their seats. Hale's vision blurred, but he spotted the incoming blips on the tactical display. Divert power to shields. Ruiz, can that crystal interface with the systems? Jam their targeting? Ruiz's eyes widened, then narrowed in focus. He slotted the crystal into a port, its light flaring brighter. Data streams erupted across his screen. Ancient codes, fragmented logs of forgotten wars. Trying. It's old tech, but if I reroute, yes. The pod's shields flickered, then surged, deflecting the first missile in a burst of plasma. But the second struck true, shearing off a stabilizer fin. The pod spun wildly, alarm screaming as inertial dampeners failed. Kira wrestled the controls, her knuckles white. We're losing attitude. Hale, manual overrides, now. He unstrapped, crawling to the engineering panel amid the chaos. Sparks flew from exposed wires, the air thick with ozone. His hands burned and blistered from the vent, fumbled for the levers. Got it, rerouting O power. The pod steadied with a jolt, but the damage was done. Ruiz's console sparked and died, the crystal ejecting into his hands. Lost the scan, Ruiz reported, voice tight. But they're still on us. One more hit and we're vapor. Hale slumped back, breath ragged. The gas giant loomed larger, its swirling storms a gamble. Kira, take us in. Use the atmosphere for cover. Ruiz, prep the distress beacon. Code it to the fringe allies only. She didn't argue, diving the pod into the upper clouds. Turbulence battered them, lightning forking outside like vengeful veins. The interceptors followed, but the storm scattered their formation, one vanishing in a fireball against the winds. Inside, Hale watched the crystal in Ruiz's grip, its glow dimming. That jam saved us once. Think it has more tricks? Ruiz shook his head, but a spark of his old wit flickered. It's history, not a weapon. But history's full of surprises if we live to read it. The pod emerged from the clouds, scarred but intact, the remaining interceptors circling for another pass. Kira's plan had worked, but fuel gauges dipped critically low. They had a narrow window to the nearest relay point, a smuggler's hub where allies might wait. Or traps. Hale sealed a leaking panel, his mind racing. The Council's deletion wasn't just data, it was lives like theirs, erased to keep the masses compliant. They'd stolen it back, but the chase was far from over. As the pod accelerated toward the relay's faint signal, Ruiz murmured, "One step closer." But what's the cost if we fail? Hale met his gaze. Then the truth dies with us. Push on. The pod shuddered as it broke through the nebula's outer veil, the relay station's docking arms glinting like skeletal fingers in the dim starlight. Hale gripped the controls, his knuckles white against the worn plasteel, while Ruiz scanned the incoming signals from the co-pilot's seat. Kira, wedged in the back with her toolkit patched a flickering console, her breath steady despite the sweat beading on her forehead. Contacts inbound, Ruiz said, voice clipped. 3 shuttles unmarked. Could be smugglers or Council's bait. Hale nodded, eyes flicking to the fuel readouts. They were running on vapors, the pod's engines whining in protest. Hail them. Keep it neutral. We're traders with cargo to offload. Kira leaned forward, her cautious nature surfacing in the way she double-checked the encryption on their transmission. If it's a trap, we bolt for the asteroid field. I've got the navs rerouted. The response crackled over the comms, a gravelly voice laced with suspicion. Unidentified pod, this is Relay Hub Alpha. State your business or eat a warning shot. Trading data scraps, Hale replied, injecting a thread of his old bravado. Nothing the Council would miss. Got creds in a story worth hearing. Silence stretched, broken only by the pod's creaks. Then, docking bay 3. Power down on approach. Any funny moves, we vent you. As the pod maneuvered into the bay's maw, magnetic clamps seized them with a jolt. Hale exchanged a glance with Ruiz, witty caution meeting grim resolve. They suited up, blasters holstered but ready, the stolen declaration drive tucked in Hale's vest like a beating heart. The airlock hissed open to a dimly lit corridor, sparks dancing from exposed wires in the walls. A figure waited at the far end, a wiry human woman with scarred cheeks and a plasma rifle slung low. Flanked by two others, her eyes narrowed as they approached. "Name's Lena," she said, not offering a hand. "You smell like trouble. What's the cargo?" Hale stepped forward, brave as ever, but measured his words. "Information, the kind that rewrites maps. But we need a secure line out. Allied channels if you got 'em." Lena's gaze sharpened, flicking to the drive's outline. One of her guards shifted, hand twitching toward his sidearm. "Allies? That's a loaded word around here. Council's got ears everywhere. Show me what you've got or walk away empty." Ruiz tensed beside Hale, his cautious instincts screaming trap, but Kira spoke first, her voice steady. "It's real. Declaration logs, proof of the deletions. But if we plug it in here, we're all painted targets." Lena hesitated, then jerked her head toward a side door. "My den, 5 minutes. If it's junk, you pay for the fuel." Inside the cramped room, lit by a single holoscreen, Hale slotted the drive. Data bloomed. Manifests of erased colonies, fabricated histories to prop up the Council's grip. Lena's face hardened as she scrolled, her witty smirk fading into something raw. This is dynamite," she muttered. "But they've got interceptors inbound. Scanners picked up your tail 2 jumps back." The alarm blared then, red lights pulsing. Shouts echoed from the corridors, blaster fire popping in staccato bursts. Ruiz drew his weapon, peering through the viewport. "Council strike team. They're breaching the outer bays." Hale's mind raced, grit fueling the spark. "Kira, rig the station's vents. Flood the halls with that coolant foam from your kit. It'll gum their suits." She nodded, already moving, her tools clinking as she jury-rigged a panel. Lena barked orders to her crew, barricading the door with crates. Ruiz covered the flank, picking off a shadow through the thinning bulkhead. The foam hissed out in white clouds, choking the air with acrid mist. Screams cut short as armored figures stumbled, visors fogging. Hale led the dash to an auxiliary shuttle, the group weaving through the chaos, blasters barking to clear a path. They piled in, engines roaring to life just as the pod's bay crumpled under a missile strike. Lena sealed the hatch, her expression fierce. "You owe me a new hub, traitors. But this data, it's worth the burn." As the shuttle punched into the void, evading the closing net of interceptors, Hale felt the weight settle deeper. The truth was spreading, but the hunt had just sharpened its claws. The shuttle's engines thrummed like a heartbeat under siege, propelling them through the debris field that had once been a quiet trading lane. Hale gripped the co-pilot's console, his knuckles white against the worn plasteel, as Ruiz punched in evasive maneuvers. Interceptors swarmed like angry hornets, their laser lances slicing the void in brilliant arcs. "They're gaining," Ruiz muttered, sweat beading on his brow despite the recycled air's chill. "That missile volley bought us time, but not enough." Lena leaned over Hale's shoulder, her eyes locked on the tactical display, flickering with incoming threats. She was the steady one, always had been, cautious in planning, fierce in execution. "Divert power to the rear deflectors. Hale, you're on nav. Plot us a course through the asteroid belt. It's our only shot." Her voice cut through the alarms, calm but edged with the grit of someone who'd stared down worse than corporate enforcers. The data core hummed in her lap, a small black box holding the Council's deleted declaration. Proof of their fabricated war, the lives erased to fuel it. If they made it to the neutral relays, it could unravel everything. Hale nodded, fingers flying across the interface. The shuttle bucked as a near miss grazed their shields, sparks dancing across the viewport like fireflies in a storm. He was the witty one, quick with a quip to lighten the load, but now his mind raced with calculations, no room for jokes. The asteroid belt loomed ahead, a jagged maze of tumbling rocks the size of freighters, remnants of some ancient cataclysm. Belt's dense, perfect for hiding if we don't get pulverized first. He adjusted the thrusters, weaving them into the first gap, the ship groaning under the G-forces. Ruiz fired a warning shot from the dorsal turret, the recoil vibrating through the hull. "One down." But they're adapting. Look, they're forming a pincer. On the screen, 2 interceptors peeled off, flanking their path while the main pack tightened the noose. Lena slammed a fist on the armrest. "We can't outrun them forever." Ruiz prepped the decoy drone. "Hale, find us a pocket, something big enough to mask our signature." The air grew thick with the scent of overheating circuits, the foam from earlier repairs still clinging to the bulkheads in sticky webs. As they plunged deeper into the belt, the shuttle shuddered against a glancing collision, a chunk of ice shearing off a stabilizer fin. Alarms wailed, red lights bathing the cabin in bloody glow. Shields at 30%, Hale reported, his voice tight. We're leaking atmo from the aft. Ruiz launched the drone, a cheap rig loaded with false signals, and it streaked away like a flare. For a moment, the pursuers split, two veering toward the bait. But the lead interceptor adjusted, its sensors piercing the ruse. A torpedo streaked toward them, closing fast. Lena's mind whirred. The data core wasn't just evidence. It held encrypted schematics from the Council's own vaults, blueprints for their shield-piercing tech. Hale, reverse the polarity on the core's emitter. It'll overload their sensors, but it'll fry ours too. It was a desperate hack, human ingenuity born of scraps and spite. Hale hesitated a beat, then patched it in, the device whining to life in her hands. He aimed the jury-rigged burst at the torpedo, a pulse of raw interference blooming in the void. The torpedo veered wildly, detonating against an asteroid in a silent blossom of fire and shrapnel. The interceptors recoiled, their formation shattering as feedback scrambled their arrays. Ruiz whooped, banking hard to exploit the chaos. That bought us breathing room. The shuttle darted through a narrow crevasse, rocks whispering past the hull like vengeful spirits. But the victory stung. Hale's nav screen went dark, leaving them blind in the belt's heart. Tumbling free on the far side, they emerged into open space, the nearest relay station a distant gleam. Lena secured the core, her breath steadying. We're not clear yet. They'll regroup. Hale rubbed his eyes, the cabin's dim emergency lights casting long shadows. The cost lingered. A damaged fin meant slower speeds, and the data's edge was dulled by the hack's residue. But as the stars wheeled by, the hunt's claws felt a fraction blunter. Ruiz glanced back, his cautious nature surfacing in a rare grin. Next stop, broadcast. Let the galaxy hear what they tried to delete. Hale met Lena's gaze, the weight of their escape settling like dust after a storm. The truth pushed forward, one battered jump at a time. Hale's fingers danced across the jury-rigged console, coaxing the damaged fin's actuators back to life with a makeshift bypass. Sparks flew from the exposed wiring. But the hum of the engines steadied, pulling them out of the debris field's lazy spin. Lena watched from the co-pilot's seat, her hands still smudged with coolant from securing the core earlier. That'll hold for the jump to Epsilon relay, she said, voice low but firm. But if they trace the hack residue, we'll have interceptors on our tail before we hit broadcast range. Ruiz, wedged in the narrow engineering nook behind them, grunted as he sealed a panel with a magnetic clamp. His cautious eyes flicked to the rear sensors. They're not regrouping fast. That pulse we sent scrambled their formation, bought us maybe an hour. But the fin's drag means we're limping. One wrong vector and we're space junk. He wiped sweat from his brow. The grin from before faded into the grim focus Hale knew too well. Ruiz wasn't one for risks, but he'd jury-rigged more than his share of miracles on this run. The stars blurred as Hale initiated the micro-jump, the ship shuddering like a beast shaking off sleep. They emerged closer to the relay's outer marker, a skeletal station orbiting a gas giant's hazy limb. Its antennas gleamed against the swirling clouds below, a beacon for smugglers and truth-tellers alike. Hale leaned back, the cabin's recycled air thick with the tang of ozone. Broadcast first, then we ghost out. The data's clean enough, no residue leaks if we route through the station's buffer. He glanced at Lena, her brave streak shining in the way she nodded without hesitation. She'd pulled them through the belt's chaos, her quick thinking on the core override turning a sure trap into their narrow escape. But as the relay loomed larger, Ruiz's console beeped a sharp, insistent warning. Incoming signature! Not council interceptors. Freelance hunters. Must have picked up our trail on the open bands. Hale's gut tightened. Bounty chasers. The kind who didn't ask questions, drawn by the whispers of deleted council secrets. The ship was no match for their armed corvettes in a straight fight. Not with the fin compromised. Lena spun her chair, pulling up tactical overlays. 2 vectors closing fast. We could sling around the gas giant, use the storms for cover. Her words came quick, edged with the adrenaline that made her unbreakable under fire. Hale waited, the relay's broadcast tantalizingly close. Dodge now, and they risked losing the window. Engage, and the cost could be the ship itself. Ruiz, divert power to shields. Lena, plot the sling, tight arc, skim the upper atmosphere. Hale's order cut through the rising hum of alerts. The ship banked hard, gravity pressing them into seats as they dove toward the giant's roiling bands. Ruiz muttered curses, rerouting every spare jewel from non-essentials, the lights dimming to a flicker. Shields at 60%. If they fire grapples, we're done. The hunters' ships appeared on the scopes, sleek predators slicing through the void. A warning ping echoed, lock-on imminent. Hale gripped the controls, the console's glow reflecting in his determined eyes. They'd come too far to let scavengers claim their truth. As the first plasma bolt grazed their hull, shaking the frame, Lena's voice rose steady. Evasive now. Thread the storms. They plunged into the maelstrom, lightning-veined clouds buffeting the ship like hammer blows. The fin groaned under the strain, but Hale held the line, weaving through ionized winds that jammed sensors on both sides. Ruiz whooped once, a rare break in his caution, as the hunters veered off, one corvette clipping a turbulence pocket and spinning wild. The second pressed closer, its beam lancing through the haze. In a flash of ingenuity, Lena slapped a override on the comms array. Boosting our signature, make them think we're venting core plasma. Draw 'em into the hot zone. Hale nodded, executing the feint. The ship belched false exhaust, a brilliant flare against the storms. The hunter took the bait, diving after the ghost signal straight into a thunderhead's heart. Alarms wailed as electromagnetic fury engulfed it, systems frying in the overload. They burst free on the far side. The relay now a straight shot. Hale eased the throttle, the cabin falling quiet save for the engine's weary thrum. Ruiz slumped back, checking vitals. One down, one's limping. We bought the broadcast. But the fin's damage showed. A hairline crack spiderwebbing the outer hull, a reminder that survival always exacted its toll. Lena met Hale's gaze, the weight of the near miss settling. Truth's out there. Let's make sure it sticks. The relay station loomed ahead, a skeletal spire punching through the nebula's glow like a forgotten bone. Hale gripped the controls tighter, the ship's hull groaning under residual strain from the storm dodge. Distance to dock, 2 minutes. Ruiz, prep the override codes. We can't afford a glitch now. Ruiz's fingers flew across the console, sweat beading on his brow despite the chill in the cabin. Codes locked in, but their security's adaptive might throw a curve if they detect the broadcast leak. He glanced up, his cautious eyes meeting Lena's. She stood by the viewport, arms crossed, her witty edge dulled by fatigue but not gone. Curve or not, we're not turning back, Lena said, voice steady. That signals our shot. The Council's declaration hit every fringe world, deletion orders for dissident archives. If we link the relay, it amplifies. Permanent. The ship shuddered as docking clamps engaged, the automated sequence initiating with a series of metallic clanks. Hale exhaled, killing the engines. But alarms pierced the quiet, a proximity alert flashing red. Second hunter's closing fast. It's wounded but not out. Bearing 047. Ruiz cursed under his breath, pulling up schematics. We bought time in the storm, but it's got backup thrusters. ETA 3 minutes to intercept. His hands trembled slightly as he initiated the upload, the console humming with data streams. The relay's core lit up on the display, hungry for their payload. Unaltered histories, human records the Council had branded as fabrications to justify their purges. Lena moved to Hale's side, her brave resolve shining through in the way she squared her shoulders. We split tasks. Hale, you and I secure the physical link. Manual override if the codes fail. Ruiz, hold the fort here. Keep that upload flowing no matter what. Hale nodded, grabbing his toolkit. On it. But if it breaches the airlock... He let the implication hang, the risk clear. One hull breach, and the vacuum would claim them before the hunter could. They cycled through the inner hatch, the corridor beyond the ship cold and echoing, lit by emergency strips that flickered like dying stars. The relay's access panel was a maze of conduits, but Lena's quick mind spotted the weak point. A service grate half-pried from prior sabotage. There. Council's sloppiness works for us. Hale wedged his tool in, prying with controlled force. Sparks flew as wires exposed, but the panel resisted, sealed by a biometric lock that scanned and rejected their false IDs. Damn it. Adaptive, all right. The ship rocked suddenly, a distant explosion rattling the deck, the hunter firing warning shots, testing their defenses. Back in the cockpit, Ruiz monitored the chaos. The upload crept to 30%, but interference spiked, the hunter's jamming field clawing at the signal. They're targeting the broadcast. Hale, we need that link now. His voice cracked over the comm. The cautious engineer pushed to his limits, rerouting power from life support to boost the stream. Air recyclers whirred slower, the cabin growing stuffy. Lena slammed her fist against the panel, frustration boiling over. Think, Hale, what's the improvised fix? We can't brute force this forever. Hale paused, scanning the conduits. A loose plasma relay caught his eye. Human ingenuity kicking in. He yanked a secondary line, splicing it crudely into the lock's power feed, overloading the biometric with raw current. The panel hissed, then popped open with a satisfying click. Got it, Hale shouted, feeding the data cable in. The upload surged, jumping to 70%. But the ship lurched again, harder this time. A direct hit grazing the fin, widening that hairline crack into a gaping fissure. Alarms wailed anew, pressure dropping. Ruiz's comm cut in, terse and urgent.
Hull breach imminent.
Seal it or we lose atmosphere. Upload at 90, holding, but I can't. The line fizzled. Lena and Hale sprinted back, the corridor pressurizing unevenly, frost creeping along the walls. They burst into the cockpit to find Ruiz slumped over his console, a shrapnel fragment from the impact embedded in his shoulder. Blood soaked his jumpsuit, but his eyes fluttered open, defiant. Finish it, he rasped, nodding at the display. The upload hit 100, the relay pinging confirmation. The signal beamed out, unjammable now, carrying the truth across the void. The Council's lies exposed, their deletion edicts crumbling under the weight of recorded history. The Hunter closed in, weapons hot, but Hale punched the undock sequence. The ship tore free, engines flaring as they veered into the nebula's embrace. Lena patched Ruiz's wound with hasty field dressings, her hands steady despite the pain in her eyes. We did it. But he's stable, barely. Hale glanced back at the relay, now a beacon in the storm, its light piercing the darkness. The Hunter pursued, but slower, its systems faltering from the earlier overload. They had the edge now, human grit against machine precision. As the nebula swallowed them, the cost lingered in the thinning air and Ruiz's labored breaths. Victory, but etched in scars. Hale gripped the controls, the ship's hull groaning as the nebula's tendrils clawed at the engines. Alarms blared in staccato bursts, red lights painting the cockpit in bloody hues. Lena, status on Ruiz? His voice cut through the din, steady but edged with the strain of holding their course. He's holding, vital steady, but that shrapnel nicked an artery. Another jolt like this and we're burying him out here. Lena's hands flew over the med panel, sealing the last adhesive strip. Her face, smeared with sweat and Ruiz's blood, twisted in focus. The big man lay strapped to the bunk behind them, his chest rising in shallow rhythms, eyes half open and fixed on the bulkhead. The Hunter's signature flickered on the scopes, closing the gap despite its crippled drives. Hale punched the thrusters, veering hard into a plasma storm that lit the void like fractured lightning. The deck bucked, sending tools skittering across the floor. We can't outrun it forever. That relay's our shot. If we beam the data now, the Council's deletion goes public across a dozen sectors. Lena glanced up, her cautious nature warring with the fire in her gut. And if they jam it? We're ghosts, Hale. No backup, no fleet. She wiped her brow, the motion deliberate, buying time to think. Ruiz coughed wetly, a reminder of what they'd already lost. The station's archives, half their supplies, and now this endless chase. Hale's jaw set, his bravery a quiet forge in the chaos. He didn't argue. Instead, he routed power from life support to the comms array, the air growing thinner as recyclers whined in protest. Then we make it stick. Improvise the burst. Overload the beacon with everything we've got. Their machines can't predict human desperation. The Hunter fired, a lance of energy grazing their shields. Sparks erupted from a console, acrid smoke filling the cabin. Lena lunged for the fire suppressor, spraying it down while barking. Shields at 30%. Hale, you're flying us into a graveyard. Not today. He twisted the ship into the storm's heart, the plasma interfering with the Hunter's sensors. Static roared through the speakers as their data packets surged toward the relay. A torrent of exposed council decrees, fabricated histories unraveling like threadbare cloth. Declarations of human inferiority, deletion protocols for anomalous worlds, all laid bare in unfiltered truth. The Hunter hesitated, its pursuit stuttering as the nebula's interference peaked. Hale watched the scopes, breath held. The packet connected, confirmation pinged green, a fleeting victory light amid the alarms. But the cost hit hard. Ruiz's monitor flatlined for a heartbeat before Lena's jolt brought him back, her witty edge cracking through the fear. Stubborn bastard. Won't even die proper. Engines straining, Hale plotted their escape vector, the nebula's glow fading behind them. The Hunter veered off, systems fried by the plasma backlash they'd lured it into. Silence fell, broken only by the hum of stabilizing drives and Ruiz's ragged inhales. They emerged into clear space, the relay's signal echoing outward, a defiant ripple against the council's void. Hale eased back in his seat, scars of the run etched in every face. Humanity's grit had bought them time, not salvation, but a spark unquenched.